Chaim veli vracha. Chaim, everyone. Oh, David's coffee. After a day not having it, oh, it's doubly good. Chaim, Chaim vracha. Welcome, everybody, to another morning of Chassidus, learning the Rebbe's Chassidic discourse, the Maimer, said in 1975. And we're in the midst of a thought. And that thought is based on a King Solomon's phrase, Shcheirani Benava Benesis Yushalai. I'm black, but beautiful. Daughters of Jerusalem. What does that mean? So, a friend, that's where the expression, exactly. That's the original expression. Black is beautiful. An older chassid says once walking down the streets of Montreal, he was a regal individual, dressed regally, and walking, someone comes up to him, a big, heavy, tall, black man, and he says to him, Rabbi, I don't think he said it like that the way I'm saying it, but you look beautiful. So the rabbi responded and says, well, don't you know black is beautiful? So the metaphor over here is that the soul comes down. The soul in its root source is called daughters of Jerusalem. Daughter is a recipient. The soul's a recipient, a part of God, right? It's receiving from God what makes it a soul. That God blows into it a piece of him. So it's a recipient. That's daughter is a recipient. And Jerusalem means complete, completion in the sense of awe of the divine. And the soul, the way it is above, has a complete sense of presence of the divine, and therefore it's in a state of awe. But then it comes down into this world and gets blackened. It gets blackened because it comes to a body, that the body has its own agenda, an animal soul that animates the body with its agenda. It's not a divine one. Yet through the work that a person does, the efforts that they make in the service of God down here, they make it beautiful. How do you make it beautiful? Because it comes from a source of B'nai Yisrael, B'nai Yerushalayim, as the verse says, right? Shcheirani, I'm black, but beautiful. B'nai Yerushalayim, daughters of Jerusalem. So because it comes from its root source above, the soul, therefore, when it comes down here and it comes into a world that, you know, isn't perfect sense of presence and connection, yet through the divine service, it becomes beautiful. And this is also the metaphor that we use, the water. Water gives life. So water from a wellspring above the ground is not as powerful um, and purifying as water in the deep down tributaries below. Right? When they sell you water, they don't tell you they're telling you it's come from the depths of the earth because it gets refined down there. So the metaphor is that Maim Chaim, living waters that can purify the Mitzvah, for example, bring purity to the most impure states of being, comes from the depths of the earth. The earth what covers over the water, covers over the darkness of the earth, if you will, meaning that it's covered over, but yet it gets refined there. And that's the Mayim Chaim, true waters of life that bring purity. It's the same idea. You can have water on top, right? That is clear, gushing water that comes from a spring, but it's not as pure, that water, is it when it comes down below. Sorry? No, that was Yitzchak. Well, Abraham also did, but Yitzchak was primarily the digger. Yeah. So by digging, right? Digging deep, you find treasures. So you get into a dark situation, you get into a deep situation that covers over, conceals over the divine. But when we dig, meaning dig deep inside of ourselves, using our meditating upon and understand what this is, and bring out the heart and the connection. So then we have Maim Chaim, we have living waters that are much more powerful than the way they are in their root source. So we come in a descent into this world, but we come to a greater ascent because of the lowness that we go over here into this world. Again, a physical body, an animal soul, and yet through digging deep inside of us, we bring out the beauty. For this, and we can understand, says the Rebbe, that if you recall in the Parsha a couple of weeks ago, the Jewish people sang a song to God, right? We learned it. Right? Ale ber anula amra Israel. So we spoke. It said, "Come up the wellspring, the spring, the well," and the Jewish people thank God for the miracles. It was a miracle of the Amorites who wanted to destroy the Jewish people. They were hidden in the caves, and it was such a miracle that they didn't even know that it occurred until afterwards. They saw the result of uh, of of their ill-plotted plan. But the Rebbe brings up, why are they singing the song of what God has done for them only in the 40th year? Why did they sing earlier? The truth is they sang also by the crossing of the sea, as Yashir. Right, but that was led by Moshe. Actually, we spoke about this in a class, right? That it was led by Moshe, but now the people matured and therefore they led. They led the song. Meaning, the first, the the first generation that came from the Exodus into the desert, they were called the Dordea, a generation of knowledge. What does it mean, a generation of knowledge? Well, they were taught directly from God. They were taught directly from Moses, from Moshe, right? Um, Living in the desert, they really didn't have mitzvahs. They just had the awareness. Deya, das means awareness. They had an awareness of the presence of God. They had the clouds of glory. They had the wellspring going with them that wherever it went. They had uh, you know, just to sit and learn. They were great. They were souls that, relatively speaking, they were in the world of thought, like a professor, the absent-minded professor who lives in the world of thought, of ideas. Because in the desert, think about it. What is there exactly? Right? So the idea of godliness, the idea of the teachings of Torah, so that's what they had, right? Everything came from above, manna from heaven, everything, So even though, yes, we see the complaints and we see all those things, but we have to put that aside and understand that they were in a world, not a world of action. There's not much action to take you can do when heaven is feeding you and protecting you. So they didn't have the virtue of the living waters. The living waters, meaning the living waters that are underground, that are covered over by the earth, meaning life wasn't covered over for them. Godliness wasn't concealed. It was open. So they didn't have the Maim Chaim, or they didn't have, the dripping of water, as we explained, it was the concept of mazel. They didn't have that, which means they didn't have the experience of taking a material world and refining it, right? Just like the waters underground get refined in the ground specifically, right? In the materiality of the physicality of the depths of the earth that are covering over it, right? So they didn't have that opportunity. They didn't have that. It was specifically, so therefore, they're not the ones who sang about the well, even though the well was with them for 40 years. They could have sang about, right, in praise and thanking for the well. They didn't. They had it. Right. It's an immaturity, because when you got it, you're not appreciative of it. And therefore, you don't thank, praise, or sing to God for it. But it was specifically the new generation. The old generation died out, right? Now we're talking 40th year. It's a new generation. They're going into Israel. They've been prepared for a whole different dynamic, a whole different way to serve. They're going to have to till the soil. They're going to have to work the land, right? But from there comes a great virtue. As the land is good, very, very good, right? Since this is in a way, this generation, in a certain way, you can say, this is kind of the sacrifice as the soul has a sacrifice when it comes down from above. Above, it's got it all. Benois Yerushalayim, daughter of Jerusalem. Right? It's receiving Yerushalayim, complete awesomeness from from God. Like it's like you're in the presence of the Rebbe. You live in Crown Heights and you've got Fabringens every Shabbos, every week, daytime. You can go daven with the Rebbe. You're in the presence of the divine. Who wants to move away from there? Right? Who wants to go to Alaska? Who wants to go to China? Who wants to go to Montreal? So when that happened to me, l'chaim, l'chaim. Last laugh was on me, but I mean, I'm coming out of Rosh Hashanah davening with the Rebbe. The Rebbe blows the first 30 blasts of the shofar. I come out from there. It's like, there's no words to describe what that experience is. Awesome. Awesome. I come out and Rabbi Veromachkin, head shliach of Montreal, Quebec, comes and says, would you be interested to come to Montreal to the Chabad house? So I laughed at him. Not because I didn't want to go on shlichus. That was our plan, my wife and I. But coming out of that experience, and also was just, only married a few months, and wanted to continue, being in the Rebbe's presence and learning in Kailul at the time. Everything from heaven. I didn't work. My wife did. I learned. And to give that up, B'nais Yerushalayim, but in the end, yeah, here we are. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So here, that's a sacrifice. So it was a sacrifice of that generation that was going into the land of Israel, right? But hey, the land is really good. What do you mean the land is very good? Isn't manna from heaven better? Isn't the wellspring that is on top of the earth, not deep down that you have to dig? Isn't that better? Well, it is a come down. But from that come down, that yerida, you have an aliyah. You have an ascent. You have an ascent. Especially that generation, because they had 40 years in the desert as a preparation. And part of that preparation is also we learned in the previous a couple weeks ago with the defeat of Sichon and Og, which was Transjordan, which that part of the Transjordan was also to become part of the land of Israel, because if you remember, Reuven, Gad, they were going to be there, as we'll learn actually in next week's Torah portion, or in the Transjordan, which next week we'll actually be getting the boundaries of the land of Israel. So all of that was preparation to go into Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, was specifically the end of the 40 years that this miracle happened to the Jewish people, because this was now that they're ready to acknowledge, to be aware, that they can stand on their own 2 feet, and recognize that this wellspring, right, that comes from the depths of the earth, that from this wellspring, that we're ready now to dig deep, going into the land of Israel and having to deal with a material, existence to sustain ourselves materially from, the earth as opposed from heaven. And that from there, we can recognize the great blessing. And here in that preparation, the Jews are singing to God. So likewise in our lives, we may find ourselves in a dark place. Shcheirani, I'm black, meaning I'm in a dark place. But if we know that just means, therefore, I have to dig and to find Nava, the beauty. And what's the beauty? The beauty isn't I'm an amazing accomplished person. No, it's B'nai Yerushalayim. I have an amazing soul. That's what I have, right? It wasn't because I accomplished something. So I'm not whole, complete, and worthy because I did something. I'm whole, complete, and worthy because I am something. Chaim, l'chaim v'racha. All right, folks.